Hang on, you were born, what was it, 15 months into the hiatus, wasn't it?
July 86, so yeah.
Yeah, so obviously we're talking, there was, Doctor Who wasn't on, so it was quite dull during those years, wasn't it? So obviously, for those of you who want the cliffhanger resolution for last time, Michael found the pencil.
Yes. Now, let's see if I can keep it without losing it in the next half an hour. Speaking of cliffhangers, that brings us to Death of the Daleks. Sorry.
The greatest cliffhangers of all time. Let's go with episode 1 first.
Yes. Well, I mean, for people who've not seen it before, the resume. The Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith have arrived on a planet which sucks the energy out of everything. So the TARDIS doesn't work, the lighting doesn't work, people's energy weapons don't work, and there's humans there because they're trying to find a energy source which can solve a plague that's ravaging the universe. This is Teddy Nation. You can tell.
The space plague.
Yes, a space plague. There's a Terran. Uh, and at the end of the episode, the Daleks show up, which probably shocked everyone, as you can tell. Teddy Nation special again. But because the timing on the edit, which to be fair is due to pacing issues earlier in the episode, I'm told. What we actually see is this: the Daleks arrive. The Doctor goes, "Be careful!" The Dalek weapons shoot, and we stay on it long enough to see the Dalek weapons don't work. So the cliffhanger is, how will the Daleks get out of this one?
It is a little bit variety from Terry Nation for the cliffhanger. I know it's a dark story, but it's like the best cliffhangers. It changes the situation a little, it advances the plot a bit. And then just a little bit of a careless directorial choice just kills it completely.
Yes. Which is a shame because there's actually quite a lot to like about Death of the Daleks. I'm particularly fond of the way the Daleks swap their energy weapons for basic machine guns, wipe out one of the Exelons, and then mutter grumpily that the weapons are moderately effective. That's such a great bit of character work on the part of the Tin Pots.
Yeah, it's by no means my favorite story, but that is the one bit that I absolutely adore. It's the Daleks being as smart as they're supposed to be.
Version of the story grinds to a bit of a halt when they go into the city of and have to go through all these really dull puzzles. The most exciting of which is the Tiled Floor of Doom, which is our episode 3 cliffhanger.
Oh, an idea so good, Robert Holmes nicked it for Pyramids of Mars Part 4.
And then Terry D nicked it for the Five Doctors.
Yes.
You can't mess with a tiled floor of doom.
I have to say that the cliffhanger of Part 3 of Death of Daleks is so suspenseful that obviously it caused my mum's waters to break. It was so suspenseful, it took them 4 days for it, but it worked. You don't need curries, you don't need anything, you just need a good Doctor Who cliffhanger. Or even an absolutely appalling one.
Seems like a good point to bring on cliffhangers which don't work due to being charitable, things going wrong in the execution.
Yeah.
If we can bring in one that always made me laugh as a teenager, because I'm such a horrible person. On paper, the cliffhanger to the rescue part 1 is Ian is trapped and spikes are going to knock him into a pit. William Russell could easily walk around 2 spikes on the screen that are slowly going to knock him towards what you can see is a less than 2 foot steep incline to the set floor. The poor man is doing his best to act the hell out of this, but
and he does, to be fair. Him and Hartnell are giving it some for that.
but unfortunately, the way the camera is set just kills the tension. I think they even have Sandy, the poor lamented sand monster, in at the time too.
That's right. Barbara Wright's murder victim.
Yes, there are several cliffhangers that unfortunately fall into similar category. Yeah. For example, Planet of the Spiders Part 5 suffers from, I think they had to do quite a bit of editing cuts to Part 5, and the cliffhanger was going to be the reveal that Sarah Jane's got the spider on her back. But
which is a brilliant cliffhanger, great visual image.
Unfortunately, that's about 5 minutes into Part 6. And the cliffhanger we get instead is Tommy getting zapped by the possessed humans, which just doesn't have the same ring to it, really.
And also, if I remember right, it's about halfway into the episode before it gets resolved. If it's ever,
yeah, yeah, because there's such a long recap of the previous week. The thing about I suppose Barry Letts was so intent and getting a good show out that if he thought something failed, then he would axe it. But sometimes that would hurt the comprehension of the scene somewhat. And see what happens with the very last Part E cliffhanger.
oh god, yes, oh well, the penultimate story of your era. That the beloved, well, probably the most beloved actors played Doctor to that point, at least in his own head, certainly, and by perhaps certain Glaswegians.
On the Bertie era.
The cliffhangers that really don't set are the ones where the resolution is a cheat or just too easy. And we all know, yeah, I'm talking Genesis of the Daleks episode 2 here for a start.
Yes. Where did that platform come from?
David Maloney plays it brilliantly. Just like, just freeze frame there.
Yes.
Perfect. And I know he loved his freeze frame for a cliffhanger. It used it to work there, and then no. Sarah falls 2 foot.
Yes.
It's like the fall down a gentle incline in the Five Doctors.
The scream lasts longer at the end of episode 2 than it possibly could at the start of Part 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is why I will maintain that the best versions of Genesis are the LP version and the edited down version. There's so much back in there, just make it a leaner, meaner machine. And at the first one I saw, version of Genesis I saw was I think it was the 2-part edit that was 1982, 83, somewhere around there. And I loved it then. And then I remember getting it for Christmas in the 90s. I was like, oh, great. It's the Sontaran Experiment, Genesis Daleks double pack. Great. Put Genesis, I was like, oh, this does drag a bit, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Doesn't the LP have the non-existent cliffhanger in the actual one, which is about 3 minutes into Part 4, where the Khaled base is destroyed, and the Doctor goes, I sent Harry and Sarah into that.
Yeah. Brilliant cliffhanger.
But in the actual story, it's 2 minutes or 3 minutes after the actual cliffhanger. We're thinking of cliffhangers that don't work, which could have worked on paper. Another one that comes to mind is another Terry Nation era one, which is the Chase Part 4, where they have the android Doctor Who to set up the death of Doctor Who as an episode. And when they've got William Hartnell playing the android, obviously it looks like William Hartnell because he is himself. But when they've got Edwin Warwick in close up, looking nothing like him, which is followed by the Dalek going, it is indistinguishable from the original.
About that. clearly they didn't go to Specsavers.
I mean, there's a whole class in its own of cliffhangers, which if you read them down on paper or you see them in a Target novelization, like, for example, if you're a child of the 90s, they sound like they're amazing. But when you see them on screen, they just don't work for some reason.
Dragonfire Part 1.
What the hell is going on there? I know the concept is that he wants to get down there, so he goes down there and realizes that he's too small because he's Sylvester McCoy. But they do not frame the shot well enough, and the whole cuds. It just looks like he's gone. Oops, I'm 23 minutes into my episode. Here we go.
Literal cliffhanger.
Literal cliffhanger.
Dragonfire plays it so postmodern. It's a deliberate cliffhanger thing. Is deliberate, but yeah, again, I'm not sure the writing sets it up well enough. Maybe
I do love that at the time Ian Briggs was asked what it meant, and he said you'll find out in the novelisation, which is I've always taken as give me a chance to work it out for my. No, there's actually two cliffhangers in close succession in Tom Baker's final season, which strike me as ones I thought would look amazing when I saw them written down, but they just don't translate that way on screen. And in chronological order, the first one is Full Circle Part 2, where Romana is trying to stop herself getting bitten by marsh spiders, and one pops out of the fruit and bites her. And I don't know, it's the way it seems it's shot devoid of tension. Weird, because it's Peter Grimwade.
It might just be the spiders, or the idea of the spiders terrified me at times, because I know to modern eyes they are not convincing in the slightest, but they terrified me at the time because they're bloody huge spiders. It's like, no, thank you.
Because if you watch it, Full Circle has so much of the great sort of what we call the Peter Grimwade shots, atmosphere and lots of quick shots and building, and most of it works really well in that regard. And there's some really good
low shots as well, isn't it? With the marshmallow coming out.
Makes everyone look taller, and there's some really good shots when Romana gets possessed by the infection later on. But this particular scene just seems to go. It just doesn't work for me for some reason. I don't want to poke fun or criticize one of your bête noir directors, but I'm afraid this is Peter Moffat. Happens in one of his better works too, State of Decay.
Yeah.
We get part 3, and in that you've got Romana and Adric taking on a vampire assault, trying to survive, and one throws the knife right in the king's chest, and he takes out the chest with no blood and smiles at them and starts stalking them. And that's nightmarish written down in a Target novelisation.
Yeah, that's brilliant work. Yeah.
But it's so stagily done on screen. That was so disappointing.
I think that's to a large degree Peter Moffat's problem. He's not suited to what Doctor Who needed to be in the kind of the early 80s. He's still from that BBC background where television is derived from stage, so the audience is expected perhaps to put a little bit of work in as well. Personal
tragedy for him in that throughout all the 70s and a vast chunk of the 60s, he had a reputation as being the guy who would be perfect for Doctor Who. His CV was based on shows like doing really good versions of shows like this. But by the time he actually got to Doctor Who, he was 60. He was well past his best, and technology and TV had basically marched on. I feel like there would have been a good Troughton era story by him back in the day, which we've never got.
Absolutely, probably a studio bound one, I would say as well.
Well, there were more studio bound ones back then.
Yeah. It shows you the ideas there, but the execution just wasn't.
Yeah. The Leisure Hive, which admittedly has some good cliffhangers, like the first one where you think the doctor's been ripped apart, and they're like, "What the hell's going on here?" It's very abrupt, but episode 3, when the aliens show up and they rip off the father-in-law from All Creatures Great and Small's face to reveal an alien, and it's all done in this weird way that you can't work out what the hell's going on, and then they don't entirely explain it for you next week either. It's kind of it's a massive letdown to what had been one of the more interesting characters in it.
Yes, and again, Lubbock Bickford he's one of the more interesting directors, I would say, certainly on Doctor Who, even if you can't stand that, or however long it is, half an hour tracking shot to kick the story off. I don't mind a bit of auteur work there. But yes, there's the Doctor splitting into bits and the old Doctor, brilliant work. But yeah, these are the cliffhangers of my kind of
Your childhood.
Pretty much put down to Logopolis, which is obviously Michael's favourite story.
You've got Logopolis episode 1, cliffhanger, where the police find Auntie Vanessa's shrunken corpse, immediately somehow know that it's a shrunken corpse, and want the doctor to explain who it is. Just terrible. Sorry.
It kind of works dramatically, but not as an actual terms of plot. No. Or are the police in on this? Are the police, is this a conspiracy? Do they know? Are they informed as to the background? They can't go, oh yeah, Unit knew this guy years ago. We've got the files on him.
Has Paul Gill ever told you his opinion on Logopolis?
I think he's mentioned it once or twice.
A full day of maths, and then your hero dies. Worst school day ever. Oh no! And incidentally, there will be a link to Paul's new book down below. I recommend it. I'm sure John recommends it. He's read it too.
I recommend it too.
Great young writer. Mick Foley always puts it. Always find a good point for a cheap plug.
If you want to go on plugs, I can talk about how clever the invasion brackets of the dinosaurs cliffhanger for part 1 is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, because you wrote a book about it.
Again, it's like Russell T Davies does later on with the next dog. But the episode title, I know the Radio Times gave it away, but let's face it, not everyone read the Radio Times. Yes. Certainly, we never had the Radio Times in our house, so. But it's slightly before I was born. But invasion, again, the classic Terry Nation move of show the monster at the end, and that's what makes it work. It's because you've got this spooky London, again, like the Dalek invasion of Earth. What's going on here? What's happening? You've got that, that at the start, the milkman, the dead bodies, and you don't know what's going on. And then you resolve at the end, it's a dinosaur.
Yes.
Tell me, Michael. Would that not be the great? Yeah. Why is that not the greatest cliffhanger of all time? It's a dinosaur turn. It's Doctor Who, and a dinosaur unexpectedly turns up.
Well, I think we're all aware that Invasion of Dinosaurs starts at 10 out of 10 and then goes upwards. So,
as I prove in my Black Archive, available from all good Obverse Books websites right now.
Look,
there you go.
I do like the fact that Luther, there's the bloody corpse of like subversive Paddy at it again. In terms of the dinosaurs, I would so love to have been a fly in the wall when Paddy Russell got to see the dinosaur props she had to use for 6 weeks. That would have been just such an amazing meeting to have been witness to.
But her and Barry Letts in the same meeting doing it. Come on, tell me you wouldn't pay all the stuff you will ever have just to be there.
Because she was such a good director, she's going to take those props and get the most out of them. Who else is going to try and direct that scene where Bessie drives under the Plodocus and actually make it work.
It's again, the tension is all in the drama of it, rather it doesn't concentrate on the monsters. And obviously, I should say, for those who haven't read that Black Archive, it's the title of the whole story is a pun.
Yes, because there is no golden past.
No, it's only dinosaurs want you to return there, of the political kind.
When people talk about the bad effects, they're mostly talking about the Jewett monster. The pterodactyl and quite a lot of the shots of the Triceratops, which is mostly hidden in the shadows, are really quite well done for a Doctor Who budget.
A lot of people want the effects reshot because they tend to do that for at least one story on every DVD. I'm led to believe it's very, very difficult because of the way the shots are layered.
Yes. Well, as a wise young person who will remain nameless told me, they couldn't understand why people would get so upset about the effects. It's obviously not real dinosaurs, and nobody complained about the effects in Lego Jurassic Park. Subgenre of, I don't want to call it lousy, make do cliffhangers, where they've taken the plot as far as they can without the actor who plays the Doctor available. So you've got the Space Museum Part 3. Oh, the Doctor's off screen, there he is. Or Time Meddler Part 2. Where's the Doctor? I understand why they're there, because they're there for plot necessity and to not kill the lead actor back in the days when they were filming all year round. But they are so mediocre.
It's the same sort of game you can play in the Jodie Whittaker era, going, when's Bradley Walsh off filming The Chase? When are they filming round him?
Jerry Davis had at least made it into a joke where, you'd have the Doctor being knocked out by something, and every now and again, Jamie would lift up her ship and go, the Doctor's still out cold.
If you say, yes, the Wheel in Space as well, if I remember,
Yes.
is a good one for that.
Linked in with those kind of ones are the ones where there's a peril to the Doctor, which isn't really a peril, because we know he's a Time Lord. So, for example, the prime one of this is Modern Undead, where there's a cliffhanger based around the concept that he'll take 7 of his remaining lives. Note, he won't die, he'll just die in the future. Didn't quite have the jeopardy.
When I asked my wife about this, she said to mention the first cliffhanger, the Turlo trying to smack the Doctor over the head as well, which is awfully resolved, but which is a really nice moment of setting this new companion up. So that it kind of works for a greater purpose as well. But yeah, Mordrin. Yeah, so Mordrin wants to cancel the Doctor after Peter Davison.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that Mordrin is Michael Grade?
I seen that season, given that a few weeks earlier, Arc of Infinity Part 1 has Colin Baker shooting Peter Davison's Doctor.
Yes, and being present at his supposed termination.
Yes. Someone was a bit too eager to get the role a few weeks early. Cliffhangers where things just go too far. And I know that's where people bring in David Maloney in Drowning. But the one that interests me is Paradise Towers Part 2, where Mel is threatened by the old ladies with the knife and the toasting fork, which is a really nasty moment, but to my mind, it oversteps fantastical / real life ratio. And what I find interesting and what marks it different to what happened under Eric Saward is that Andrew Cartmel clearly, when he got told that he'd overstepped the mark there, he clearly took it to heart, because they do not go that way again in his tenure.
No, not in the slightest. You cannot replicate, the rest of the cliffhangers. And we will mention one of the great cliffhangers later on. because the McCoy era has so many good ones. 24 is largely, it's a learning exercise all round. Sylvester's trying to figure out how to play the Doctor. Andrew Cartmel is trying to figure out how to, what version of the series he wants. Hence, that first series is all over the place. I know he didn't have much to do with Time the Rani, but the rest of it is, what can we do with this show? So, and that point, that cliffhanger is, he figures out, right, we cannot do that kind of violence, and he never goes back there again. And it makes the series better. Whereas I think if someone had told Eric Saward he's going too far, he'd have retreated back off to his cubby hole in the BBC and he'd gone to the BBC bar, got his little stout, and he'd have grumbled away at it. And
well, I can see a recurring theme here that creature reveal depends on how it's done. A dramatic cliffhanger is often the ones that linger in your mind, and more often than not, the director feels how good a cliffhanger is or not.
It's a visual medium. It's that memorable image or memorable moment.
And sometimes you can have ones written down on paper, and you don't give them a second bit of thought. So sometimes you see them written down on paper, you don't give them a thought, and then you watch it, and suddenly it's dynamically acted, directed, and suddenly they're shouting, "Right, cut it open," and you can't wait till next time. But you have to.
Cut it now.
Can't remember why I put Armageddon Factor Part 1 down, no. Even happens in that? Where's the list of cliffhangers? Oh, can't find the list of cliffhangers. Oh, I should have. Well, yes, list of Doctor Who cliffhangers. See, even John's back with him. It took me to work out what the list of cliffhangers was. I can't remember a cliffhanger. I've had a Doctor Who fan brain fail.
Oh, which one? And any particular one you're trying to think of?
Armageddon Factor Part 1. Oh yes, the TARDIS has disappeared. Oh, what? How will they? Yes, all the ones for the. Oh, the TARDIS is gone, but we'll find it again.